Let us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province as found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and enlarge the precious heritage called Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
The Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce you to and members of the Assembly, a person who perhaps needs little introduction in view of his service to the United Kingdom here in Alberta over the last several years. John Doble is seated in your gallery. He is the Consul General of the United Kingdom and the Dean of the Consular Corps in Alberta, and I'd like to ask him to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Member for Edmonton Beverley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed a pleasure for me this afternoon to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly a former colleague, a friend and a constituent who served this legislature in the last sessions. He's a little tiger when he was here, did a great job for the official opposition. He's seated in your gallery. I'd like to ask Mr. John Uni to rise to receive the normal welcome of the
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce Bill 25, the Ambulance Services Act. This act provides for a provincially regulated and locally managed ground ambulance service in accordance with provincial minimum standards. It is in response to the work and recommendations of the report by the Health Policy Advisory Committee submitted to the Minister of Health in 1988 entitled New Dimensions in Emergency Health Services in Alberta Solution. Highlights of this bill include a component of basic life support as the minimum standard for ambulance service in the province unless the minister authorizes a lesser level because of particular local circumstance. The establishment of ambulance districts and ambulance district boards. Ambulance services continuing to be locally managed. The appointment of a ministerial appeal and advisory board, and the required licensing and regulation of all operators according to providing ground ambulance service. Mr. Speaker, it is the government's intent to let the legislation die on the order paper, and I look forward to the comments and suggestions which will flow from all interested Albertans in this regard. And following this input, it's my intention to reintroduce a bill in the spring session of the legislature next year.
Order, please. The Honourable Minister of Health has moved first reading of Bill 25, Ambulance Services Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 25, Ambulance Services Act, introduced by the Honourable Mrs. Vetkowski, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill number 257, the Access Orders Enforcement Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill provides for legal aid as a right to those seeking access orders enforcement, and also provides for mediation, conciliation, and reporting to the court.
Right on.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona has moved first reading of Bill 257, Access Orders Enforcement Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 257, Access Orders Enforcement Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Wright, is now read a first time.
Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill entitled the Open Taxation Act. The purpose of this legislation is to ensure that if a goods and services tax is implemented federally, that the amount of such tax shall be disclosed in all sales and service transactions within the province.
The honourable member for Calgary-Buffalo has moved first reading of Bill 258, Open Taxation Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 258, Open Taxation Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, followed by Public Works Supply Services.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to table the 1987-88 annual report of Alberta Forestry, Lands and Wildlife for the year ended March 31st, 1988. And I'd like to point out the cover of this document has been produced on recycled paper. I'm also pleased to table a report of the proceedings of the 18th annual meeting of the Alberta Land Surveyors Association as required by statute.
Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services.
Mr. Speaker, as the Acting Associate Minister of Family and Social Services, I'm pleased to table a written reply to questions raised of the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services on page 1124, answered by the member for Edmonton-Beverly.
Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file with the Assembly a motion for return 169, and perhaps the member who requested this information could assist the pages. It's rather heavy, Mr. Speaker, at least half a tree. It's not on recycled paper, but it's all recyclable. Thank you.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the annual report for the year ended March 31, 1988, on behalf of the Alberta Students Finance Board.
Introduction of special guests.
Minister of Labour.
It gives me great pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of this Assembly a visitor that we have with us in Edmonton from Ontario, Margaret Grant, and with her today is her daughter Margaret Williams, who is my very able assistant, and her two of her grandchildren, should I say, William Williams and Heather Williams. And I would ask them all to stand up and receive the warm welcome of this House.
Lesser Slave Lake, followed by Edmonton Millwoods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my privilege today to introduce to you and to the rest of the Assembly 11 students from my constituency who are involved in a summer math science camp at the University of Alberta. They are seated in the members' gallery, Mr. Speaker, and accompanying them are elders Mary Capo, Victoria Callio, chaperones Philomene Capo, Denise Callio, Vince Breaker, coordinator Mike Dan, Audrey Breaker, Laurie Montour, and Laura Okimau, and also probably the one that seems to be important in terms of transportation, the bus driver Ken Cardinal. I'd like to ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and the other members of the Assembly this afternoon two visitors from Barbados. They are Mr. Erskine Simmons, who's a Member of Parliament of the Barbados National Assembly, and his associate, Mr. Robert Headley. And in light of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association conference coming up in the fall is going to be hosted by Barbados, we are particularly pleased that they are able to visit us at the Alberta Legislature here today. So I'd ask them to please stand in the public gallery and receive our very warm welcome.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Mr. Speaker, when the taxpayers gave VanCap Equities Limited a 30-year, $200 million loan, they were told that the company would support ventures that broadened and diversified our economic base, Mr. Speaker. But clearly the past and present management of VanCap have abandoned that mandate. Mr. Speaker, some 54% of VanCap support has gone to companies who do not meet that mandate.
For example, Mr. Speaker, $14 million to a holding company headed by prominent conservatives, good friends of this government, $14 million in companies already working in the oil patch, and $10.6 million in companies, including an investment dealer, a hotel chain, and a moving company. Hardly diversification, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is this: when will the minister stop hiding behind this ridiculous notion that he has no influence with VenCap, in view of the fact that they have $200 million of public money, and tell them to get back to their original mandate?
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report to the honourable member that previous discussions were held by the previous Minister of Economic Development and the Provincial Treasurer so that we could have VenCap involve themselves to a greater degree by offering venture capital to those businesses within the province of Alberta. We are presently working very closely with VenCap, recognizing though, and I wish to stress this, recognizing that they are at arm's length from the government, whereby they want to examine the business proposals on a sound basis. We also wish them, though, to a greater degree, and that has been communicated to them, and I am in contact with them on a regular basis to develop an overall master plan so there will be greater involvement of their finances in venture capital.
Well, it certainly hasn't happened yet, Mr. Speaker, but Mr. Speaker, they're certainly capable of wasting taxpayers' money. You notice on page 5 of VenCap's most recent report that $1.2 million was given to previous management as sort of a golden handshake, Mr. Speaker.
Nice handshake.
Now, average Albertans would like this sort of kiss-off, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
But my question is to the minister: has the minister brought to the attention of the chairman of VenCap this, how dismayed he is about this wanton waste of taxpayers' money, and making sure it will not happen again?
Mr. Premier, as the honourable member can appreciate, this was a decision by the board of directors of VenCap. VenCap is an organization that is at arm's length from the government. We are working with them so that we can have some opportunity for greater input to ensure that there is greater investment opportunities for them. I have had, as I indicated earlier, on an ongoing basis discussions both with the chairman and the president so that we can have greater flexibility in the areas of their investment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm talking specifically now about $1.2 million for a golden handshake to previous management. That would have created a lot of jobs.
Right.
And my question is to the minister: does he find this behavior acceptable? And if he doesn't, has he communicated again to the chairman about it?
Mr. Speaker, I indicated to the honourable member that this was a decision of the board of directors and that VenCap is at arm's length from the government.
Second main question, it's inappropriate to ask the opinion.
I'd like to designate my second question the member from Edmonton, Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Forests has been nothing if not consistent in his refusal to allow Albertans to participate in a proper environmental impact assessment on timber harvesting policies and reforestation policies. Instead, the government spent nearly $300,000 during the election campaign on coffee parties, open houses, and related functions, partly to mollify an electorate that was concerned about the giveaway of the northern forest resource. When it emerged during the campaign that these meetings had no bearing on the decision, the government took the next step of setting up a blue ribbon panel of experts to review the public input and prepare a report for the minister. Unfortunately, the government dashed the hopes of those who took part in that process by going ahead and signing a new forest management agreement with Daishawa while the expert panel is still holding hearings. I'd like to know what steps the minister has taken to restore the integrity of the public input process now that his panel has been compromised and the participants in the process have been slighted by the signing of the agreement.
Mr. Speaker, that's just so much nonsense because it never jeopardized the panel at all, and in fact one of the members of the panel made it very clear that the Daishawa signing of the FMA had absolutely nothing to do with the open houses and the work of the expert panel.
Well, the hired guns may not be concerned, but the people who went to the hearings are. Perhaps the Minister of the Environment, who's in the middle of another public input process with respect to the Alberta Pacific project, and also on license applications on Daishawa and Procter & Gamble. What assurances will the Minister of Environment give that he won't pull a fjordbot and cut a deal partway through this process?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what pulling a fjordbottom is all about. Never pulled one before. But he's Mr. Speaker, insofar as the environmental impact assessment for Alberta Pacific is concerned, it's proceeding normally. We have set up a review panel. They are doing their work. They'll probably start public hearings, full-fledged public hearings with federal government participation and intervenor funding in 4 to 5 weeks. And with respect to the Procter & Gamble mill, we've offered the residents there, or representatives of the residents in Grand Prairie, an opportunity to monitor the licensing process and to have input into the licensing process before the license is renewed in October. And I think that that is sufficient, more than sufficient public input into the process.
In view of the fact that the Minister refused to table the correspondence he had with ALPAC regarding his representation that they don't clear the site before the process is complete, I'd like to know what communication he's had with the company regarding the company's decision to place firm orders for the entire wet end of their mill, the digester, the recovery boiler, the power boiler, the dryer, the cutter, the baler line, the lime kiln. What does Alberta Pacific know that the rest of us don't know, which allows them to make firm commitments to buy this equipment?
Thank you, Honourable Member, for this second paragraph.
Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I think that those questions should more appropriately be put to the company. The government is not buying that equipment. It should more appropriately be put to the company. As I've said before in the House, and I won't say it again because, as I said before, every time I mention a letter, you know, they all get glassy-eyed and they start to froth at the mouth and they say, oh gosh, here's another motion for return. So I will say that there has been communication with the company, that has indicated to them it would not be advisable to proceed until the environmental impact assessment has been completed.
Leader of the Liberal Party, member for Edmonton Glengarry, followed by Calgary Fish Creek.
Mr. Speaker, especially in Calgary, so few apartments have been constructed in recent years that low and still decreasing vacancy rates are allowing landlords to impose huge rental increases on people, on tenants who almost literally have no place else to go. In fact, we are already hearing loud calls for rent control from tenants in one Calgary apartment building that had a 40% increase imposed on them. And I think that there are more calls coming in short order. Mr. Speaker, the trend in Edmonton has been similar, though somewhat behind Calgary's situation. Since few apartment units are under construction or even planned in both of these cities now and in the future, the problem will only continue to get worse. And the people who will be hurt the worst by these rising rents will be low-income Albertans who are already stretched too thin. My question is to the minister responsible for housing. Since the minister must already be aware of this looming problem, and since the province has several ways that it can have an effect in this area, positive ways, has the minister determined what action he will take to protect Albertans who are renters?
Mr. Speaker, I want to say first of all that the answer to the question is certainly not rent control. As a minister, I will not stand for rent control.
That's what he wants,
And if the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party is suggesting that in his House, then he is not in the right province to suggest that kind of legislation. Now, Mr. Speaker, in terms of what is happening in Calgary specifically, because Calgary is the urban center where the problem exists, if we look at other urban centers in Alberta, the average vacancy rate is around 3%, which is what we can declare in the field or in the business as being normal. Calgary certainly is abnormal in that we have a low vacancy rate of around 1.7%. Now that certainly is a problem. Now, why is it there, Mr. Speaker? It is for a very good reason. The economy of Calgary, like a number of other urban centers in this province, is on a growth pattern, a significant growth pattern facing some adverse conditions in the oil industry. Amoco, for example, thinking of laying off a number of persons, other companies the very same way. But we have that kind of a situation in the marketplace with adverse conditions. Mr. Speaker, in answer to the question to the honourable member, I mean, every question that is asked has a preamble. Every answer should have a preamble too. Why not? Mr. Speaker, the private marketplace has an opportunity to provide rental accommodation. We, through the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation, will do all we can to support that development. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation as well will apply their programs to assist in that situation. But I must stress that the emphasis in housing in this province should be towards private ownership, not public ownership by public dollars. And that will be the emphasis.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable minister probably doesn't remember, because he was part of another party, that it was the Conservative government that imposed rental controls. My second question to the minister is this. That since it appears that the problem is indeed getting worse and worse, and given that there are these cries for rental control, and we're not in favor of rental control, would the minister agree to form a task force made up of municipal people and developers and so on in order to get this matter under control as quickly as possible?
Mr. Speaker, it's just another liberal approach to solving a problem. Forming a committee. It doesn't solve the problem. We have a responsibility as a government to assist in any way we can. We will do that. But the private marketplace will adjust to this problem, Mr. Speaker. Calgary historically, if the honourable member will look at the statistics, Calgary historically has adjusted quickly to accommodation needs, both in the private, where there's private ownership, and in rental accommodation. Edmonton, on the other hand, in the past few years, has delayed its reaction to the problem. Now, the only thing I can conclude in that is that there were too many task forces in Edmonton, and there were...
Final, Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, my last question is to the Minister of Family and Social Services. Given that the Alberta government has not seen fit to adjust its social service shelter allowance since 1985, and other governments in Canada have, even cold-hearted, cold-blooded Tory governments, what assurances will the minister give this House that he's got the matter under control and that Albertans in low-income groups won't suffer?
Mr. Speaker, I have on a number of occasions in this House assured members on both sides that we will make sure that those Albertans that require our support for those essential services, for those basic services, including housing, will receive the necessary support. But I should say, I would like to share some more good news that the Minister of Municipal Affairs started to share earlier, and I would want to point out in the city of Calgary that we're seeing a real interesting trend, Mr. Speaker. We are seeing our caseloads dropping drastically as a result of the economic initiatives that this government has taken. We're seeing this in this last month, 1,300 less caseloads than we saw this time last year. 1,300 less.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Member for Calgary Fish Creek, followed by Edmonton Kingsway, then Edmonton Gold Bar.
Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation has implemented a policy that's adding several $100s to the costs incurred by Albertans in purchasing homes from the corporation. Under this offensive policy, Mr. Speaker, purchasers are being denied access to the property survey certificate, and consequently they have to order a new survey even if a copy of the existing certificate is totally acceptable to a private sector lending institution. Mr. Speaker, can the minister responsible for the Housing Corporation justify such a policy?
Mr. Speaker.
Name a committee.
It's time for another committee. To explain the matter, Mr. Speaker, in academic terms,
They won't understand.
and I can't do it in legal terms, but the property, the survey certificate is the property of the mortgagor or the person that is borrowing the money to buy a certain piece of property. When Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation foreclosed on the units that are in question, that are now being sold in the private market, that survey certificate came with the foreclosure on a basis of as-is basis. And we in turn became the owners of it in a sense at that point, but it was not a survey certificate that was made through an arrangement between Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation and the respective surveyor. We feel that the survey certificate, because it has legal liabilities, should not be passed on to the person that's purchasing foreclosed property because of the liabilities we may face as Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation. That's the reason for it. If there are ways of getting around that, as a minister, I'd certainly like to enhance the program. At the moment, I've asked the people in the department to look at it from a legal perspective. If we can, we will.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my constituents who have been caught in this legalistic trap are seeking simple fairness and justice, not simple legalistic defenses. Will the minister, Mr. Speaker, be prepared to ask the corporation to review its present policies, particularly in light of the fact that those purchasers who are arranging their financing through the corporation appear to be exempt from this very offensive policy?
Mr. Speaker, what I have attempted to do is to put a disclaimer with the survey certificate so that we would not have legal liability. That doesn't seem to be possible, and other alternatives will be looked at for the honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, as a bare minimum, would the minister be prepared to direct the corporation to provide purchasers the name and contact information of the surveyor who prepared the original survey certificate that it has on file, so that a certified copy could be obtained from the surveyor at a cost much lower than the cost of a new survey?
Mr. Speaker, yes, we would certainly do that. We have been doing that, but if we haven't been doing it as well as we should have, we'll improve that facility for the public of Alberta.
Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the member from Jasper Place and I visited Applied Polymer Research. It has a $30 million high-tech plastics recycling operation and a huge supply of plastic bottles on hand in southeast Edmonton. In spite of 4 years of discussion with VenCap and an offer of 80% ownership to that corporation for financing, we now find that Polymer is in receivership. To the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, could the Minister indicate what steps he is taking to see that this company continues to operate here with its high technology and the jobs that it produces?
Mr. Speaker, what we are presently doing is examining some of the financial papers that the company has given to us so that we can examine as to whether there is any way that we could involve ourselves in supporting that company. I should indicate to the honourable member, and this was relayed to me by VenCap, that this is one of the companies that they would like to involve themselves in with funding, but they have had difficulty because we're encountering the same difficulty in getting to the bottom of the financial affairs. We have requested additional financial information from them. It was forthcoming, and our people within the department presently are analyzing that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Has the Minister or any of his colleagues, particularly the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunication and the Minister of the Environment, ever visited this plant to find out just what is going on out there?
No. Mr.
I've asked you.
No, thank you.
Well, I think they should, because it's very clear that there's some very important things happening out there in the area of high technology and environmental recycling. My question to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade then is, why is it that VenCap seems to have then $1.2 million as a golden handshake for former executives, and yet it's taken them 4 years to get around to deciding how to help this company when we've got high-tech, environmentally friendly industry?
Mr. Speaker, I agree with the honourable member that it is important that we do involve ourselves in recycling what we consider some of our waste products, and we are happy to involve ourselves in the event that there is some financial viability. And we have to make sure, we have to satisfy ourselves that there is that financial viability, because we are trustees for the people of the province of Alberta. And I'm sure the honourable member wouldn't wish me to involve myself in a financial transaction that did not have that financial viability, because on a fairly consistent basis they do raise those issues with me if they aren't as such. So we are going to examine it, and I hope to have a response back to the principals of the company within a matter of days.
Edmonton Gold Bar, followed by Cypress Redcliffe, then Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, citizens and professionals, workers, volunteers in our communities are impatiently waiting for a number of government promises made on health, social services, and human rights. Months later, maybe years later, Mr. Speaker, as this session draws to a close, we'd like some answers. My first question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Minister of Health regarding the Mental Health Advocate. This long-awaited Mental Health Act, we understand, will be proclaimed on October the 1st, and apparently no one has yet been appointed as the Mental Health Advocate. Can the Minister assure the House that the position will be filled when the new Act is proclaimed?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In fact, it will be filled before the new Act is proclaimed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's good news. Mr. Speaker, my next question is to the Minister of Social Services on a similar matter regarding the Children's Advocate. Mr. Speaker, given the problems that we have with the Children's Guardian and the evident need for the advocate position, will the Minister now confirm when that position, long awaited, is going to be filled and that Act proclaimed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It must be the honourable member's day, because I'm happy to confirm that in the early part of September that position will be filled.
Good news. Good news. We're glad to hear it.
Now ask Getty one. Now ask Getty one.
Now,
try Getty, because he won't answer.
Let's see if we can get a home run this time, Mr. Speaker. This question is to the Minister of Labour. Will the Minister of Labour now indicate if the government will table and pass during this session the long-promised amendment to the Individual Rights Protection Act to protect the mentally disabled?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's quite true that the Liberals never have anything 100% right, but I will say that that Act is on notice on votes and proceedings.
Already there. Cypress Redcliffe, followed by Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Agriculture, and it's related to the recently announced greenhouse program. And being the constituency with the largest amount of acres under glass in the greenhouse industry in the center of the vegetable growing hothouse industry in the province, I would like to ask the Minister if he would consider the applications by those people in the industry who read the throne speech, the first throne speech, and made their decision because of the long time needed for ordering equipment, and ordered equipment, and are now looking at approaching the department whenever the forms are out for assistance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to respond to the question with respect to the Greenhouse Assistance Program. This program was announced in early August, a 4-year program of $2.4 million in recognition of the role the greenhouse industry plays in the diversification of agriculture. The program guidelines state that projects must commence after April the 1st, 1989, but in response to the honourable member, I would say that if there have been people in the industry that reacted earlier than that to the throne speech announcement, I would ask him to submit any concerns direct to me, and we'll see if we can treat him as a special case.
Mr. I better not touch that, Nick. Mr. Speaker, again to the Minister, can the Minister assure the Assembly that there's enough flexibility in this program that indeed those involved can be inventive and think of new methods of improving the situation in their businesses to qualify under this program?
Mr. Speaker, the whole thrust of this program is to encourage producers to adopt new technology, upgrade production systems, and go into new areas of crop diversification. So the more innovative and creative the producer is out there, the better received the application will be.
Mr. Speaker, final supplementary. I wonder if the Minister can share with the Assembly when all the information will be out and people can start applying for this program.
I believe, Mr. Speaker, the full set of guidelines are out now, at least in DA's offices and the irrigation offices in the south, and people can start applying at any time.
Edmonton Highlands, Calgary Northwest, Calgary Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked the Minister a series of questions related to the rigged testing of the flight data transmitters that are used in the guidance system for the cruise missiles. One of the facts that a U.S. congressional inquiry uncovered, in fact, last year was that the subcontractor, a very large company I might add, was found to be using reversed parts, burnt circuit boards, and the wrong liquid in the gyroscope. And the gyroscope, by the way, is the mechanism that is supposed to work in very cold weather to keep that thing on balance. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it fails in very cold weather, but yet the reason that they want to test this thing in Alberta is because of our cold weather climate. I asked the Minister if he'd bothered ever to find out about this in the past when the information was first available to him, and he didn't bother answering the question. So I'd like to repeat it in a different form, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister confirm that neither the Canadian Defense Department, the U.S. Air Force, or the U.S. Defense Department ever contacted him or his federal counterparts to advise them that there was fishy business in this testing, that it was unsafe?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member for Highlands has really posed the same questions yesterday, and I will give her the same answer. We rely upon the Department of National Defense to make the appropriate inquiries with the U.S. Air Force under our relationship with NORAD as to the type of equipment being tested. It is not the responsibility of this ministry to be inquiring into the matters just raised by the Honourable Member. I have a great deal of faith in the Canadian Armed Forces and the Department of National Defense. As I indicated yesterday, they have carried out extensive military testing, both surface and airspace in Alberta over the years, and I really have to rely upon our federal counterparts to make the necessary inquiries as posed by the Honourable Member for Highlands.
the safety of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, the typical answer of this government, cross their fingers and hope, is the minister saying that he has never asked nor has got contracted in an agreement with the federal government that information about this system, when transmitted from the United States, be delivered to him prior to the testing of this faulty equipment?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, there's no indication that faulty equipment has been tested in Alberta. And the honourable member is reaching far afield in this matter. I have, of course, had discussions with the past several ministers of national defence, both those of Liberal administration in Ottawa and of subsequent Progressive Conservative administrations. And quite frankly, I am satisfied that those ministers have given every possible attention, as has the Department of National Defence, to the issue as to the type of equipment that is being used for testing in Alberta. And testing has taken place, as I've indicated, both on the surface and in airspace by a number of methods of defense-related equipment. And quite frankly, it is the responsibility of the federal government to obviously notify Alberta when those tests are to take place. That is part of the agreement. It is also their responsibility, though, to ensure that the type of equipment being utilized in defense testing is proper equipment. That is their responsibility, and I rely upon the sound judgment of the military in our country, and I trust them and I believe them.
Mr. Speaker, but by implication from the minister's response, he is also then relying on the sound judgment of the U.S. Air Force and the American Congress. And they both say that the system was rigged when it came to testing for safety. Given that, Mr. Speaker, is this minister prepared to tell his federal counterparts that Albertans want to refuse the cruise, it's not safe, and we don't want to put Albertans at risk?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I suppose I could be as strident in my reply as the honourable member was in asking her question. The fact of the matter is this, Mr. Speaker, that Canada requires defence alliances. Canada has entered into defensive alliances with NORAD and with NATO.
Or you're cute, Cam.
And, Mr. Speaker, we are prepared in this government to rely upon the federal government, the Department of National Defence, the Canadian military, to ensure that the type of equipment being used and tested in this province is suitable and satisfactory. I know that the honourable member from the NDP does not believe in defending Canada through military alliances. We know that. We know they want to eliminate NORAD, they want to eliminate NATO. God only knows what they want to leave Canada and what position they want to leave Canada. But I, for one, will support our federal...
Thank you. Calgary Northwest, followed by Calgary Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On August the 4th, I brought to the attention of this Assembly the problems of applied polymer products in the hope that it would spur the government into action, but unfortunately that hasn't happened. As a result, the 45 jobs that were in the plant have now been lost, and other jobs in spin-off companies that depend upon the feedstock from this company are also in jeopardy. Mr. Speaker, that lack of concern shown by the government for those jobs forces me to question how serious they are about economic development and diversification, and also how serious they are about the recycling industry in the province. And my first question is to the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. What is the minister doing to ensure that the technology that has been developed here in Alberta at Applied Polymer will stay in Alberta working for Albertans?
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to respond to the honourable member, and I thank him for raising this issue again. I had the opportunity, as the honourable member is aware, to meet with him and the principal, even though it was a brief meeting, upon my return from Fort Saskatchewan, when we did participate in the official opening of West Aim with the Honourable Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. But let me indicate to the honourable member, this government is concerned about jobs, and the record of this government as it relates to the creation of jobs is excellent, in that we have the highest employment numbers in the history of this province. Mr. Speaker, that just underscores our commitment to the creation of jobs. I share with him, as I've indicated to other members, we are concerned. We don't like to have any failures, but it's an area whereby we have to exercise some prudence. In the event that we are to involve ourselves financially with this company, we want to make sure that we do it on a basis of a sound financial transaction. And as I indicated to the previous members that have asked questions, we hope to have an answer to the principals of this company as it relates to our direct involvement within a number of days. I would hope also that they would continue to have discussions with VenCap, because VenCap has indicated to me their desire to participate, but because of the complexity of the financial arrangements of this company, it has caused them some concern.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they're interested in getting involved. I'm wondering what the Minister of Economic Development and Trade can do to increase the normally slothful pace of government to ensure that a response will come in time before the receiver cleans house and there's nothing left to respond to.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to be corrected, but I believe the request is for some $6 million. We've had a period of slightly in excess of 1 week to examine this. We wanted to do a thorough examination, and I'm sure the honourable member would agree that in the event that that type of money is involved, we want to make sure that we do exercise sound financial management. And surely that time period is not a time period that is excessive.
My final supplementary then, if it is deemed by VenCap or the government or whomever that this saving the entire company is not feasible, has the minister considered the possibility of at least maintaining the recycling of the plastic bottles and the manufacturing subsequently of the plastic sheet product that is required by so many other companies, just saving that portion of applied polymer?
Mr. Speaker, that is one of the alternatives that we are presently looking at.
Calgary Milliken, Edmonton Centre, Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, all over our province we've got rocks and fossils and petrified wood, and also all over our province we've got rock and lapidary clubs whose members, I'm sorry, have I said something wrong here? Whose members... Get out of it. Thank you. One fool at a time, I see. Sorry. Anyway, these members of the rock and lapidary clubs are usually families, and a lot of seniors belong there, and they are usually called rock hounds, or they call the kids pebble pups. And these good folks are quite concerned that since our Historical Resources Act, that the Minister of Culture is going to send the RCMP into their homes and seize their scraps of petrified wood and their little trilobites, ammonites, and the little scraps of dinosaur bone that they found somewhere along the way in the last few years.
Question.
What am I doing? Mr. Speaker, what am I doing wrong here? It's not Friday yet, please, gentlemen. Anyway, could the Honourable Minister of Culture please advise this legislature what his intentions of his department are towards these rock collectors and their collections?
Oh, I got rocks on my farm. They can have.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's with not a little fear and trepidation that I stand to answer this question, given the reaction to it from the members of the New Democrats. But let me say this, that the Historical Resources Act established in this province and amended some 10 or 11 years ago firmly establishes that all paleontological and archaeological resources are in fact owned by the Crown, so that individuals cannot go collect rocks and dinosaur bones and trilobites and whatever else and take it all away, that rather it should be retained in ownership for the enjoyment, the education, and the scientific benefit of all the province. And that is the rationale behind the Act. It is certainly not the intention of the province, though, to call in the RCMP and storm rock clubs and steal little Johnny's dinosaur bone collection.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. I hope he doesn't stonewall me on this. Mr. Speaker, if you go out by Rosebud Creek, there's little scraps of dinosaur bone ranging from the size of your finger to the size of your fist through the whole blasted area, all on the surface. And on the Saskatchewan River just outside of Edmonton, from Genesee all the way up till you hit the foothills, are scraps of
petrified wood. If a kid's out there and picks up a scrap of this and goes home, does this mean, this historical act, that he's got to, him or maybe his dad's got to report that, or he could be fined and maybe sent to jail or something if he doesn't report this piece of bone?
Well, Mr. Speaker, some members of the current Assembly were present when this act was amended, and I dare say some were present when these dinosaur bones were fossilized. But let me say this, that the intent of the act is clear. The intent of the act is to retain these valuable scientific materials and resources for the enjoyment and education of all Albertans. The intent of the act is not to prevent people from wandering the province and spotting items on the ground and picking them up and examining them and perhaps taking them home and sharing them with family and friends. However, it is also not the intent of this act to prevent and discourage exploration. Because as the member quite rightly pointed out, just a number of weeks ago in the North Saskatchewan River, not too far from this building, an important scientific discovery was made by a young person exploring the banks in that a dinosaur bone had been exposed. And that person did the exact correct thing, was to notify the Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology in Drumheller. Scientific excursions are coming here. This material will be excavated, it will be preserved, it will be displayed, and all of Alberta, may I say the entire world eventually, will get an opportunity to enjoy this. The exact same thing happened down in Milk River in the Devil's Coulee with the dinosaur egg, a worldwide discovery of great significance, and were it not for the Historical Resources Act, that might have been lost forever.
Hear, hear.
Final supplement. As these things are reported, and this is what was told to me when I went out to Drumheller, that there was a dinosaur skeleton found in where they were digging for the dump, and they reported to Tyrrell Museum, and Tyrrell Museum says we have 12 of those. Please bear with me on this one. They have 12 of those already. They were not interested in it, so they just bulldoze the thing into the dump instead of letting private enterprise have a chance. If they report these finds, and if the Tyrrell Museum does not want these, could we have some guarantee, Mr. Speaker, could the minister guarantee that they would allow the private enterprise people at least to have a crack at these rather than destroy them?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not aware of the exact instance that the member refers to, but let me assure the member, and let me assure the entire House and the province and the world, that the government of Alberta is not going to allow Cosmos, everybody who's ever listening, and those at home on cable TV, that the government of Alberta is not going to allow nor encourage the destruction of valuable dinosaur bones. If, in fact, people do excavate dumps and roads and find bones, we go and look at them. In many cases, what looks like a dinosaur bone is, in fact, a cow that's been dead for 10 years.
Edmonton Center. Edmonton Center.
Quite an afternoon, Mr. Speaker. We're not going to let him be a member of the Dead Bow Tie Society, Mr. Speaker. I can tell you that. I know. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health has consistently stated that she is in favor of the privatization of non-medical hospital services, services such as lab services, management services, laundry services, outpatient services, and so on. I'm just wondering today if there's any policy of this minister which would prohibit hospital boards from contracting out, privatizing the food services of their hospitals, or having private food operators operate in Alberta hospitals.
There's nothing that I'm aware of that would prevent that kind of opportunity if it was a decision by the Board of Management of the hospital, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'm wondering then about the minister's response to the fact that the golden arches of McDonald's restaurants are, through their Ronald McDonald houses, attempting to set up franchises in major urban hospitals. Does the minister in fact believe that this private initiative from McDonald's restaurant to set up restaurants in our hospitals would be in the best health interests of Albertans and in our hospitals?
The time for question period has expired, but we have unanimous consent to complete this series of questions. Opposed?
Carried. Thank you. Minister of Health.
Well, Mr. Speaker, although I'm not specifically aware of approaches that might have been made by this company, certainly if the Board of Management approves that operation coming into that hospital, I don't frankly see what the concern of the honourable member is.
Well, great.
Well, given that Stephen Roth, the top marketing manager for McDonald's, who already has 13 franchises operated in hospitals, has said, and I quote, "Our high-quality food goes with high-quality healthcare institutions. It's just a natural," unquote. Does the Minister of Health think that cholesterol burgers, special sauce, and this kind of privatization are part of quality healthcare in Alberta?
What a puffball question. Oh, end of session. Puffball.
Mr. Speaker, hospital boards are given the trustee role of our province to spend their global dollars in the best possible way. If those approaches are being made to hospitals within our province, and I have no information to indicate that that is the case, then I have every faith that those hospital boards will make an appropriate decision in that regard.
That's all out. Time for question period has expired. Proper notice has been given with regard to purported matter of privilege. Member for Calgary-McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just briefly on Monday, August 14th, under page 1399 of Alberta Hansard, member for Edmonton Kingsway made a statement, and I'd like to just repeat it. In his opening statement with regards to comments on some taxation, I guess with regard to comments made by the provincial treasurer, this tax is not unlike one that was brought in the 1987 budget. I guess I'm just sort of curious as to whether or not the treasurer announced it to all his colleagues so that this time around a few of his colleagues would benefit like they did last time when they ran out and purchased $10,000 worth of cigarettes before the tax was put on. It was my Nazi friend from Calgary-McCall that did it, in case anybody's wondering. Well, Mr. Speaker, there are 3 or 4 points that I wish to bring to my point of privilege, and I would certainly ask the honourable member to do the honourable thing. First of all, Mr. Speaker, the innuendo suggesting that there's any insider information with regards to purchase of any products that might be or may not be entered into a budget concern is just that, innuendo, and has no basis of fact. Mr. Speaker, it's common for the industry, whenever a provincial or a federal budget was to be brought in, whether there is any taxation increases or otherwise, and that's the risk retailers take to purchase cigarettes or other commodities in a guess of whether or not a tax would be. However, the point I wish to make here, Mr. Speaker, is that the innuendo that was suggested is not only incorrect, but it is certainly out of context with the actual fact of us being here. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the amount of $10,000, I'm not even sure where that came from. The number is certainly incorrect, and I would like to know where the member would even get his facts from. It has been mentioned previously, I believe, by a member or other members. I have not risen on that point specifically in the past, but as it has been identified with another area of concern of mine, I thought it would be brought to bear. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, if the member has the correct facts, he might want to identify them. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, to identify a member of this legislature or any individual in the community as being a Nazi or otherwise is totally objectionable, not only to myself but others, and I would suggest that the member recant that suggestion. And then to have the audacity to call me a friend on top of it, it really tops the cat on that one. So, Mr. Speaker, I would certainly, on those number of points, ask that the member to recant and do the honourable thing.
Edmonton Kingsway. Order, please. The matter between this member and Edmonton Kingsway.
Speaker, there are a number of accusations here, and I'll take them one at a time. The first one, the member from McCall says the statement that the Treasurer provided information regarding a proposed budget. I don't know when the member from McCall decided that he had to defend the Treasurer. I didn't hear the Treasurer complaining. If he wants to complain, we can have a go at it any time he likes about what's in the budget and what isn't, and when he released facts and when he didn't. So I don't intend to answer that question to the member from McCall. The second statement that $10,000 worth of cigarettes was purchased comes from an article which I was able to track down with some difficulty. This was in the Calgary Sun, March 20th, 1987. That was the day of the provincial budget of the tax year that we're talking about. And here's a little article in the corner of an article about the anticipated budget of the Treasurer. So this was written the night before, one must realize, before the budget came out. Where There's Smoke is the title, ... One Tory MLA is so sure there's a cigarette tax hike in the works, he spent $10,000 on the weed. Calgary McCall MLA Stan Nelson, who runs 2 convenience stores in the city, confessed he's already spent $10,000 on cigarettes in anticipation of an increase in the provincial excise tax, and he hopes his gamble won't go up in smoke. That's more than 660 cartons at the going rate. I'm speculating, but I think you're going to see cigarettes and booze taxed. But Nelson stressed he has no inside information and has no idea where a new tax might take effect. So I believe him and believe he had no inside information, and I apologize that he was insulted. I would like to, however, file the information because he did ask me where I got my information, and I've now made it clear where I got my information. So I will file 5 copies of this with the clerk. Now, as to the last point about the Nazi, people who josh other people shouldn't be so sensitive. For years now, for nearly 4 years in this Assembly, certainly 4 sessions, we on this side, and particularly myself, have sat here and listened to the member from McCall talk about his commie friends. And he has done it on record, and he has never been chastised for it or anything like that. So if I return in kind, I don't understand why he should get upset and then call it as a matter of privilege. Now, as it turns out, when you look in the Beauchesne, you do find that Nazi is not a parliamentary term. So for that reason, I will withdraw it. But if he has such a thin skin, then he shouldn't cast the first stone.
Right on.
And I can't help wondering sometimes whether he was objecting to the word Nazi or whether he was objecting to the word friend. And quite frankly, I don't really give a damn.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Now would you like to stand up and withdraw the last word?
That was the old man.
I don't give a darn.
Order. With respect to the items as raised in the letter to the Chair by the member for Calgary McCall, the first item was a statement that the Treasurer provided information regarding a proposed budget. The Treasurer himself made reply to that in his own comments on page 1399 of Hansard, where he said that no, I know for sure the member did not know about the budget, therefore there was no information leaked there. The Chair regards the matter as closed.